Is how you can pick up heavy and awkward objects without putting too much pressure on your back. Now, the main premise is to make sure that your spine stays in a stable position. And when I say stable, what that means is that you're not going from an arch position to a rounded position. So that means that if you're going to be in an arch position, you got to stay in an arch position, or if you're in a rounded position, you stay in a rounded position. And in order for you to be able to do that, you need to be able to recruit your abdomen. The way that you do is by taking your rib cage and pulling it down to your pubic bone, creating that tension in your midline. And so when you're picking up an object, say like these water jugs, there's a couple different things that you need to be focusing on specifically. The first one is obviously our spinal position. Again, it's stable. We're not changing the shape from position to position, but also the position of our hips. Now, most of the time when you are picking something up from the floor, you're gonna see on a lot of videos as well as pictures that you have to keep your chest up the entire time. What ends up happening is as you're going down, if your knees come forward, you have to arch your chest up even more to get yourself from caving forward. Now again, the goal is to make sure that your spine stays straight. So you'll notice that as I'm descending, my back gets more arched as I go down, and that can create a lot of irritation. So you can avoid that by doing the following. As you're reaching down, let your hips lower as well. And you want to get as close to that object as possible. As you can see, I'm leaning forward because if I'm trying to go up like this, everything comes forward and I lose that tension. So if you are going to be grabbing something, get as close to that object, sit your hips down, bear hug it, and then from here, stand up. And as you can see, the shape of my spine doesn't change. It's really more the angle of my hips and the angle of my torso. Now, what happens when the object gets even more awkward if we were to lengthen the distance between you and the backside of the package? Same principle. You're probably going to have to round your upper back a little bit, but you still need to focus on actually engaging your abs. So rather than trying to keep your hips up high, which will put a lot of pressure on your back, sit your hips down so you can actually get yourself deep into this tension position. You'll feel a lot of tension in your hips. Grab everything, keep everything really, really tight, and then drive through your hips. Hips and shoulders will rise at the same time as compared to going something like this, because that puts a lot of pressure on your back. Now, lastly, we have the dreaded heavy box that is also very low to the ground. So I'm using this foam box as an example. And when you walk up, whether it be these water jugs, a heavy box, you want to be able to create tension. So I like to actually create the ab tension first before I go down versus trying to grab it and generating tension. So I'll stand here, tense up, I'll sit my hips down as I'm lowering. Again, I'm getting as close to it as possible, and I'm using my hips and my thighs to get myself all the way up and then all the way back down. So the goal is keeping those abs tight, stable spine, and getting those hips down, allowing yourself, if you need to round forward.